Caitlin.
And I'm Aravis.
And this is Loving the Spectrum. If this is the first time that you're coming to our channel, we put out videos once a week, generally on Fridays, but sometimes on the weekends, like today. We generally cover content based on our own experiences as queer, non-binary autistics. So if you like this video, definitely subscribe for more of our content.
Yeah. Today's video we'll be talking about the controversy surrounding Sia's new movie, Music, and what it means for movies like that to receive awards and accolades from awards shows and critics.
So before we get started, I actually just finished watching the movie myself.
Mm-hmm. They took one for the team. I opted out because I knew it was going to be triggering, and I didn't have any part of me that wanted to, but they had...
Yeah, my OCD makes it really hard for me to not watch things that I know are bad and that I know are problematic, especially when it's to, like, the communities that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
I, need to know what the content is that other people are seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I generally have to watch things to figure out what's in it. So I just finished watching the movie. It was so bad. So we're gonna...
Just to clarify, we did not give Sia any money.
Yeah, no, we...
streamed illegally, it's fine. Yes, sorry, continue.
Yeah, if you're gonna do what I did and you, for some reason, feel like you need to watch it, don't give her money, don't give her views, find some way to watch it that she won't be able to profit off of. I would recommend not watching it, though. It's bad in all the ways. So let's get started talking about all the reasons why it's bad.
Yeah. Okay, so to start with, there are a lot of other autistic YouTubers and TikTokers and everything that have done really in-depth videos on this, so we would highly recommend doing your own research and getting kind of a bigger picture view, because
these are just our opinions.
What we've taken from the whole controversy and what we've found. Anyway, let's get into it. The first segment is why Sia's Music is an ableist piece of trash, and so is she. Do you want to start with the problems with the movie itself, since you watched it?
Honestly, the movie itself starts off with a very bright musical number. There are musical numbers throughout the entire movie because it is a musical, but they're all very, very bright. Strobe lights, a lot of flickering, just a lot visually, which for a movie that's apparently supposed to be some love letter to the autistic community, it's not very accessible to watch. As someone that doesn't generally have many issues watching things, I had an issue watching those scenes. I was getting headaches, especially after the first one, because of all the flickering. And then even when it comes to the costumes, there were multiple white people, Maddie included, that were wearing black hairstyles in multiple of the different dance numbers. There was Bantu knots.
None of them black.
None of the people that I'm talking about were black. So it was white people wearing Bantu knots, cornrows, different braids. These are all hairstyles that white people should not be wearing. If you want to learn more about that, I definitely recommend looking up stuff on cultural appropriation and learning more about why that's problematic. I'm not going to be talking about that more in this video, but it was just, immediately, visually, it was a lot, seeing everything, and it was very inaccessible, and then even just, looking at the ways that Maddie was acting, just right off the bat, was just all stereotypes. It just looked like a caricature of what people expect autism to look like, and honestly, even in Sia's explanations of the movie, she based Maddie's character off of an autistic boy, which isn't the same experience in a lot of ways.
Every autistic person is different, and especially the equivalence between a 16-year-old autistic girl and a however old autistic man is... You can't make an equivalence. They're different experiences, point blank. And you can't...
there's so many issues with this movie. And then even just going through some of the earlier scenes, in the version that I watched online, the restraint scenes were still included. There was no warning given. I'm not sure if that's because I was watching pirated versions, and if the official one in theaters is better, I'm not going to pay to find out. But the restraint scenes were still included, and they were really uncomfortable. Honestly, for anyone that watched the trailer, I assumed that one of the characters in it was an aide or someone that was like working with autistic children and that like knew what was going on. But no, this person was just a neighbor in the building that happened to have an autistic brother themselves. So
no actual
training, no people have been trained literally whatsoever. And at one point, literally at the beginning, Maddie's having a meltdown, and this person who's a neighbor literally comes into the apartment, literally throws her over his shoulder, carries her to the bedroom, puts her on the ground, and starts restraining her. And the sister, like, this is like pretty soon after them like getting together and stuff, was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Are you hurting her? Like, I haven't seen someone be restrained before, so very obviously, like,
concerned.
You're going to be concerned when you see this child thrown on the ground and being restrained. And the person's response is just, oh no, I'm just crushing her with my love.
I just want to clarify real quick. So the restraints thing we're talking about is specifically when an autistic person is having a meltdown and expressing their emotions in a way that makes non-autistic people and the people around them feel unsafe for whatever reason or just uncomfortable. Like, it's all about the people around the autistic person. It has nothing to do with the actual person and the crisis that they're currently in. And it's essentially using the body weight of the caregiver to pin down the autistic person in crisis and stop them from moving, stop them from expressing themselves until they calm down. Which, I don't know about you, but I tend to be claustrophobic if someone that I'm not consenting to lies down on top of me and stops me from moving. I'm not going to be likely to calm down any faster if someone does that to me. And I'm someone that can usually express myself with my words. As far as I can remember, I've never gone nonverbal. So, like, I could get myself out of that situation by yelling my feelings, but
possibly,
even then,
because like that would people don't even.
But this specific restraint has killed autistic children. There are statistics out there. You can do your own research, but it's very well known that this specific restraint is not safe, and Sia used it in the movie anyway, and this means that a bunch of neurotypicals are gonna go see the movie and take that cue and be like, that's how I should deal with an autistic person in crisis. And that's really, really dangerous, and Sia, needs to take accountability for that.
And there were literally multiple restraint scenes throughout the movie, and they were all done when she was, like, I don't even know how to express how upsetting it was to watch. Like, there shouldn't be any reason that you should have to restrain someone like that. So I'm not even going to explain what she was doing because there shouldn't be a reason that it is or isn't okay. So, it was just very upsetting to watch.
And those specific restraint scenes had already been addressed before the movie came out. They've been called out specifically.
Like, people have been calling out this movie.
And Sia responded to those comments, saying that she would put a disclaimer on the movie, the beginning or whatever, about the restraints, and then also take at least one of the scenes out, which she, as far as we could tell, none of that happened.
And people have been talking about this movie for a while. So, people have been telling Sia that this movie is problematic and that there are things that need to change, and she hasn't listened to that. This movie is still coming out. It's available now. Like, it's literally been nominated for Golden Globes.
So, the bottom line of what's wrong with the movie is overall, it's a story about autistic people written by neurotypicals for neurotypicals. So, like, even in critiques, she hasn't taken anything in. And that's what we like to call inspiration porn.
Yeah.
And it's very much, especially with the ending. Do you want to
explain?
Yeah,
the end of the movie pretty much, like Maddie is pretty much nonverbal throughout the movie, but speaks a few times and like has like different phrases that she uses, but generally she isn't speaking. But they get to the last scene of this movie, and then she sings, and everyone cries. They're like, "Oh my gosh, wow! Oh my gosh!"
The moral of the story.
And it's just like, why? Why do we need another movie like this? And I think there are a lot of people that think that any kind of representation is good representation, but that's not true. I'm like, nothing about us without us is so true, because autistic people were not involved in the creation of this movie, so autistic people are not going to be helped by this movie.
Yeah.
As much as Sia would like to say that this is her love letter to the autistic community, we don't want it. Like, this movie won't be anything but negative towards autistic people. It is incredibly infantilizing. Having a neurotypical actor put on all these characteristics and like doing these stims and different facial expressions and stuff just felt really uncomfortable. Like, I couldn't even make it through the trailer the first time I saw the trailer. Like, it took me 3 times of trying to watch it before I could watch the entire thing through, because it was so uncomfortable. So watching the movie was awful. Yeah. And it just makes me really upset knowing that there are going to be neurotypical people that go to see this movie and then leave feeling great about themselves and being like, oh my god.
You know they're going to hype
went to
it
see an
up
autistic
and talk
movie
about how much they loved it specifically.
And how inspiring it is.
A disabled person.
Oh, and especially talking about like what a great performance Maddie did. Like, Sia at one point was talking about how they brought the movie to this, like, the Child Mind Institute. I'm not sure if that's what it was actually called, but there was some place that they brought it to give, like, Maddie's character a ranking for, like, how realistic it was. And they gave her 100%.
Which is disgusting.
Like, you can't play autistic. Like, the job of being an actor is to act out the story. Like, you don't need...
Acting out an identity is very different.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the disconnect is, another thing is that they're using, functioning labels and...
Yeah.
And everything. Jesus, I can't remember where I was going with that.
Yeah.
I lost my thought already. What were we just talking about?
Like, acting as identities instead of stories.
Yeah, acting as identities instead of stories. Oh, okay. So person first language versus identity first language. Person first language, I didn't watch the movie, but I'm assuming that's something that's used in the movie.
Yeah.
It's something that neurotypicals like to use. It's something that's taught in a lot of, like, medical classes. Honestly? Or whatever, and it's not what, at least me as an autistic person, I don't prefer it. Majority of the autistic people I know don't prefer it. I
don't even know how many times they called her autistic in the movie now that I think about it.
Oh, Jesus.
Like,
that's a whole other thing.
They're just like, she's special.
But yeah, so the difference between person with autism and autistic person. Neurotypicals tend to think that you can separate the person from the autism, as if it's like an affliction or like what was one of the examples we were listening to earlier? It was like,
cancer.
If you're a person with cancer, you're obviously not going to say like, oh, I'm a cancer person, because the cancer is something that has attached itself to you. It's a disease. It's a disease. It's harmful. It's not good.
Yeah. It can be cured. It wasn't here before. Exactly. It is here now, but it might be not here someday.
Yeah. Whereas something like autism is very much, it shapes how I interact with the world, how I view the world, how I think, how I feel, how I identify my gender. Like, it affects so many things about my life. And you just cannot separate that by saying person with autism. And I mean, again, that's my opinion. That's how I feel about
and like you can obviously
myself.
Use these terms for yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, no one is saying that you can't use person first terminology for yourself. But when it comes to talking about other people, I would say generally go with identity first language. That is what the
Unless
majority
they've
of the
indicated
autistic
otherwise.
community has said that they prefer. But obviously, if someone tells you otherwise, then switch to whatever language they're using.
Yes.
I also have a bunch of tweets here from Sia, so I'm going to include these up here. Hopefully I can figure that out. Still getting used to how to actually edit videos. But Autistics have been tweeting at Sia and asking her to change the movie, take stuff back, figure stuff out, and pretty much just giving a lot of critiques and being like, why would you do this? This is an awful movie.
Yeah. Like,
you
hey,
shouldn't have done this.
Why didn't you talk about this?
Yeah. But when this was, like, when the trailer initially came out, one person responded to it just being like, hey, several actors, myself included, responded to these tweets. We all said we could have acted in it on short notice. These excuses are just that, excuses. The fact of the matter is 0 effort was made to include anyone who's actually autistic. Nothing about us without us. And then Sia responds, maybe you're just a bad actor.
Which again reinforces the idea that neurotypical people can act autistic better than an autistic person, which is bullshit. Just point blank. Like, I don't even know where to start on why it's bullshit, but it's ableist bullshit. Like, and then a really common response from Sia too was, how dare you critique my film without seeing it first? Which to me, the absolute audacity of this, I don't know her net worth, but probably millionaire pop star, to tell these autistic people that are offering her critiques to pay her money to go see the movie and then give her their critiques for free, when she should have been paying us to give her our critiques, like, before she even started the movie.
Like, she should have had autistic consultants.
Literally.
Like,
if you're mad at the critiques, why didn't you just include autistic people from the beginning, and we could have avoided this whole shit show.
But see, she doesn't like including actual autistics.
No.
What she did instead was focusing on autistic caregivers. Because let's all be real,
And hiring
that's
a
who...
neurotypical actress.
Yeah, that's who this movie was for. This movie has never been for autistic people. It's been for caretakers. It's been for people that have autistic people in their lives that can talk about how difficult it is and how much of a struggle it is. And then they can go to this movie and then they can talk about it and be like, oh, it's so hard. But, you know, sometimes they're inspiring. So, yeah. C is also just so immature in all of her tweets.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to put some up just so you can just have a look.
Oh, this is my
at
favorite one.
some of these tweets.
This
just
one, grr, fuckity fuck, why don't you watch my film before you judge it?
Fury!
And then fury in all caps. And, like, this was, when I was furiously typing out the, like, notes for this video, I read that tweet and I was like, God damn, I don't think I've ever heard someone swear like a child before. Like, it seems like an oxymoron, but she did it. Fuckity fuck.
Fury!
What is that?
And then, another person called C out with, this is totally unacceptable, there are no excuses, you should know better than to allow able-bodied and neurotypical to represent the disabled community. It's incredibly offensive, as is the infantilization of the character, sickened and not even captioned. Don't release this. Yeah, it wasn't captioned either. And then Sia responds, I actually tried working with a beautiful young nonverbal on the spectrum, and she found it unpleasant and stressful. So that's why I cast Maddie.
Okay, and the first thing on that, first of all, if this was too stressful for the autistic actress, she should have changed the set in order to make it accessible for the autistic actress. She claimed to make this film as a love letter to the autistic community, to raise awareness, and yet she wouldn't even put in the effort to keep the autistic lead actor. But beyond that, we don't even know if this is true.
Yeah.
Because the timeline doesn't quite add up in terms of when she hired Maddie. And initially, she talked about how Maddie was the actress she had in mind when she was, like, choreographing
when she was
the
writing
scenes
it.
and, like, writing the whole movie. So she very clearly,
It's not right.
like, she at least had Maddie as, like, the alternate, as, like, oh, if the poor disabled falls through. Oh, sorry, she actually uses special abilities.
Yeah, she's actually said in interviews that she refuses to use the term disabled, and she uses special needs. Oh no, special abilities.
Yeah, she was
It's
very proud
special
of herself
abilities
for
now.
switching
Like,
to special abilities.
And then apparently
Neither of
she
which
also had this rule on her set that was good vibes only, and if you have bad vibes, you're fired.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much if you were going to critique anything going on, I'm assuming that would be bad vibes. So I'm sure if she'd watch our video, she'd say that we both have bad vibes. So we're both unemployed, so you can't fire us.
Aw. Good vibes only. I smoked a bowl right before starting this.
And then, also, in one of her last tweets, which are difficult to find now because she's actually deleted her Twitter.
Mm-hmm. She couldn't handle
She couldn't handle the comments, so after her releasing her last little statement about getting rid of a couple scenes, she deleted her Twitter, even though the scenes are still there. But one of the last tweets that I'm going to highlight was just this one saying that she casts 13 neurotypical people, neuroatypical people, three trans folk, and not as a fucking prostitute or drug addicts, but as doctors, nurses, and singers. Fucking sad nobody has even seen the dang movie. My heart has always been in the right place.
First of all, neurotypical does not mean autistic. You can't.
Neuroatypical is not.
Neuroatypical does not mean autistic. That couldn't be anything. Like Sia herself is neuroatypical. She has anxiety. This has been one of the reasons that her fans or whatever on Twitter have been like, hey, stop giving her hate or critiques or whatever. She has mental illness too.
She has anxiety.
I have anxiety and I'm autistic. Like, sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, also just this part about, like, talking about hiring trans people and, like, not as fucking prostitutes or drug addicts, but as doctors, nurses, and singers.
First of all,
what kind of qualifier is that?
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, I didn't hire them as drug addicts and prostitutes. Like, first of all,
it sounds like she's trying to one-up people and be like...
It's gross, the way you're talking about people. And also, like, if you actually done that 3 years of research that you had claimed to do on autism and on our experiences, you would know how many neurodivergent people deal with substance use, like,
and are involved in sex work.
And are involved in sex work because of, like, how freaking difficult it is for us to get and hold a job.
So if her character was a sex working addict, it would have been more realistic. Like, it would have been a more interesting movie at least.
Yeah, it's just really frustrating because it's like people shouldn't be typecast just into those kinds of roles, but you don't need to shit on people that do exist just to make yourself feel better.
Yeah.
You don't need to shit on people that use drugs and people that do sex work. Like, no. That's not what this is about.
Yeah.
We support sex workers and we don't need to pit people against them like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just inappropriate.
So in terms of questionable casting decisions, i.e. casting Maddie in the autistic role, she has had questionable casting decisions in the past that she has also gotten backlash for. There was a music video done with Shia LaBeouf and Maddie Ziegler when she was, like, considerably underage. I think she was, like, probably 13 or 14, if not younger. And I don't remember the video all too well. I probably should have watched it before we started this.
Yeah.
But they're, like, you know, half naked, dancing around, and there was a lot of stuff brought up just being like, hey, this video was kind of inappropriate considering the age difference. And his response was, oh, I knew there were going to be pedophilia accusations, but don't worry, it's fine. I knew that Maddie and Shia were the only two that could possibly dance these roles. Which is, okay?
I knew that I was putting Maddie in an uncomfortable position, but I really wanted to watch her dance. I really wanted people to watch her dance.
Yeah.
And then also, haven't we heard more recently that Sia knew that Shia was an abuser?
Yeah, so initially, I think it was FKA Twigs came out with abuse allegations against Shia LaBeouf, and then, like, Sia, like, chimed in and, like, either also accused him or just, like, supported the claim that, like, yeah, he's a sketchy-ass person. I can't remember the details. Hopefully we can find those details.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if she knew that Shia LaBeouf was, at the very least, had abusive tendencies, why
put a
why
child
was she okay with
in
that?
that kind of environment? And then also, like, other autistics have mentioned this as well, when we're talking about and critiquing the movie, that we don't want people to hate on Maddie,
Yeah.
because Maddie was a child when she
They filmed
signed
this back
on
in
to this movie.
2017. Maddie would have been
Like 15 or 16
Yeah.
at that point.
And-
And honestly, from what we've been hearing and seeing, it sounds like Sia has a really weird relationship with Maddie, like buying her a car and just like putting her in all of her music videos, like
which she's been doing for like
which she's
a
been
while.
doing for a very long time. And in interviews, Sia had literally talked about Maddie being like, "Oh, it was so sad. It was so funny when we were on the set. Maddie kept crying because she didn't want people to think that she was making fun of autistic people." And I was like, "Oh, no, I won't let anyone say that." And it's like, okay, obviously Maddie knew that something was wrong, knew that this role was inappropriate, and that the actions and stuff that she was doing, this caricature that she was putting on, was inappropriate, which it was.
Even if she didn't like know specifically why or whatever, she very clearly
Was uncomfortable and was like crying on set because she felt so uncomfortable because she knew that people were going to be uncomfortable by it and feel offended, which we are. But like this grown woman, Sia, who has been an adult this entire time, is the one that wrote this and put her into this role and was giving her the acting advice and telling her to do the exaggerations.
Yeah, because this
stuff.
is Sia's directorial debut or whatever. So she was doing all of the direction. In the same interview, the interviewer was talking in a very odd voice about how Music, the nonverbal autistic character, was basically an inanimate object, like a wig or something, that you gave a voice to. And Sia is just sitting there in frame, nodding graciously, being like, I did do that. And didn't correct her at all. Another thing, when the backlash initially started, Sia claimed to, there was like I did 3 years of research, and then she claimed to have partnered with Autism Speaks, which, the autistic community has been pretty vocal about them being a hate group. They're much more focused on cure than anything else. They don't care about the lives of actual autistic people. They care about the caregivers. And if Sia had done literally 10 minutes of research on the actual autistic community, she would have known that, and wouldn't have tried to use it as a no, don't worry, I know what I'm doing card, because that's obviously wouldn't have worked. Yeah. But then, and this is another reason I'm glad we delayed the video, Autism Speaks actually tweeted, in the last day or two, that they had nothing to do with the movie. And
that they weren't involved,
denouncing
apparently.
it and being like, this is a terrible representation, we believe in accurate representation for autistic people.
It's bad when Autism Speaks comes out against the movie.
Yeah. Because they're
their
bad.
organization is literally just rooted in eugenics and making sure that autistic people do not exist in the future. That we find a cure and you just don't make us exist anymore. So that would be their goal, and they don't like the movie.
Yeah. So that's everything for the movie itself and Sia and why they're both trash. And unless you have some burning desire to do the slightly self-harmy thing of watching a movie, don't do it if you don't really have to, because it's not good.
It's a bad movie. There's literally no reason to watch it. Literally none.
And now, moving on to the next little segment, after all the backlash had started, after there had been multiple days, weeks, whatever, I have a terrible concept of time, of backlash, the movie got nominated for 2 Golden Globes. I can't remember the specifics. I believe
I could look it up.
one might be Best Actress, but we'll see. But yeah, so Sia's movie Music was nominated for 2 Golden Globes, and the trans documentary on Netflix called Disclosure was pretty notably snubbed for any nominations. So the thing about ableism and transphobia is that they're both rooted in white supremacy, so they're really, if we're gonna talk about ableism, it's like...
They
it's
got a
still
nomination under
relevant.
Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy.
Ugh.
Best Performance by an Actress was Kate Hudson.
Okay, so
for
not...
The Sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's it.
Yeah. So 2 nominations.
Best Picture and Best Actress.
Best Actress for not the main character, but the supporting role.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that just reinforces the whole thing that this is a movie made by neurotypicals for neurotypicals. Because, like, not even the awards committee paid any attention to the backlash from the actual autistic community. And they were like, actually, I think we know better. I think this was the best movie of the year, actually. Which, it wasn't even that good a movie.
No,
like,
it was a bad movie.
Even, like, without the ableism and the everything and the cultural appropriation.
Yeah. I don't remember any of the music.
Yeah.
Like, if it was a musical, none of the stuff was good.
Yeah. Sucks.
Like...
Sucks.
It was bad.
Yeah.
And then I want to mention Disclosure, because Disclosure was a fantastic documentary that came out
this year. Sorry.
Yeah. I can just wait.
Okay. Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I also wanted to mention that Disclosure, which was another documentary that came out
this year
on Netflix. It was all about trans people and like the trans experience, and this is an incredible documentary, and they didn't get nominated for anything.
Yeah.
So,
which like this is it was, as far as I'm aware, written by trans people, directed by trans people, everything was trans people.
Yeah.
And like that's a big deal, and it was really well done. I was crying almost the entire time. I want to watch that.
Me too.
Watch that after this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like it deserved better, and it sure as shit deserved better than the steaming pile of shit that it's music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is just pretty in line with a long history of awards only being awarded to
like inspiration porn type stuff. Inspiration porn,
minority
trauma porn.
characters that are played by people not a part of those minorities. Like, if there's a movie with actual trans people in it, the likelihood of it getting nominated isn't great. But if you got a movie like The Danish Girl, where a cis man is playing a trans woman, then, yeah, you're gonna get nominated. Because that fits into the mainstream Hollywood and mainstream Western society's view of a trans woman. As a man playing a role really, really, really well.
And this
it's
is
completely
dangerous.
Because, like, first of all, Hollywood, if you're really not transphobic, why is your instinct to cast a cis man in the role of a trans woman instead of a cis woman? If you're truly not transphobic and you truly believe that trans women are women, cast a cis woman if you can't find a trans actress. Which you fucking can, but...
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, like, especially when it comes to hiring cis men to play trans women, like, that can be so dangerous. And it is, because...
When you're at the award show and you watch this actor with a full-ass beard walk up to accept the award after you've watched the clip of the movie where he's he's a beautiful woman. And then it just validates the audience's internal assumptions that yes, that thing was just a man in a dress.
And it's like there's this whole idea that trans people are just putting on this like show and like have on this costume, and then at the end of the day we take it off and then that's who we really are. But this costume was the fake thing that we're using to trick people, especially trick people for sex. That's a big idea that people have, that trans people just want to trick you into having sex with us, especially trans women. And this can be so dangerous
Yeah,
because
literally physically
like the trans
harmful.
panic defense is literally still legalized to kill people because you were too surprised when you found out that they were trans.
Yeah, you can be acquitted
Like-
for murder in some places in the States because you were panicked that a person was actually trans, so you just murdered them. Yeah.
Yeah. So this stuff isn't frivolous. Like,
It's not.
there are real live
Yeah.
repercussions.
We're not
to-
just being nitpicky.
Yeah, no, there are real life repercussions to the choices that are made in the media that we consume. Like, these things are impactful. So having trans women or trans people in general being played by cis people makes people think that we're all lying and that we're just faking like being who we are.
And the same goes
And then-
same goes for disabled characters played by non-disabled actors.
Yeah.
The assumption is that if you try hard enough, you can become verbal like music and sing your song at the end of the movie. So if you try
And
hard
like
enough,
not
you can
only
overcome
that, but like neurotypical people are better at playing neurodivergent people, and that they would rather have a neurotypical person overly act out someone to be like nonverbal and make them seemingly look like low functioning, because those are what Sia's words were, instead of just having an actually autistic person come in, because then they can be like, oh no, but you don't look disabled enough, because that's what they would have done. Like this, like this idea of looking disabled enough in order to get your art to sell to neurotypicals is really gross.
And then the final aspect of it is really like money. Like when you cast non-trans people in trans roles and non-disabled people in disabled roles, you are actively denying that community an opportunity for a job and for money. And trans and disabled people are already some of the most likely people to be in poverty, especially if you're a person of color. So yeah, if you're casting a neurotypical actor in the role of an autistic person, like Sia has done, you are actively causing harm to the community in so many ways. Yeah. So Sia, you better pay the fuck up, because I'm really broke. And you got some accountability to do.
Yeah.
Such a mess.
Yeah, this whole thing was just such a mess. And autistic people have been very clear that we just want good representation. Literally just let us be a part of things, and not just in like what you can see, but behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, that's the
you need
most
to have
important
autistic
thing.
writers, you need to have autistic producers. Like, we need to be at all levels of production, because even if you're just having autistic actors, then yeah, obviously the set's going to be inaccessible. So like we really need to figure out a way to make everything more accessible and like have that representation actually work. Because even just hiring in an autistic person and putting them into a workplace or an environment that isn't accessible
is also directly harmful.
is also harmful. So don't.
So make your workplaces
Yeah,
not
just
harmful.
make them more accessible. Make them like safe places for autistic people to like want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since we're still new at this, we'd love to get your feedback on what you do and don't like from our videos so far. We're still getting the hang of everything, so any pointers you have would be really great. Leave any feedback or comments you have down below.
We've also made a new Twitter account at Autumn and Aravis, so give us a follow, and you can also find us on Facebook at Loving the Spectrum. We'll include all this in the description below, don't worry. Yeah.
And as always, like and subscribe to stay updated.
See you next time.
Bye.